Okay, I'm editing this video and I wanted to quickly say that I apologize for the background noise in it. If it bothers you too much, just shut it off, but it was a really good conversation, so I wanted to post it anyways.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jessica,
My name is Rebecca.
and we are both au pairs here in Paris. Today I wanted to make a video about dating in Paris/France as an American, and next week we're gonna have a video about dating as an au pair, and Rebecca has kindly joined me to offer a second opinion. Do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself, Rebecca?
Sure. So, I am an au pair here in Paris. This is actually my second year au pairing, so I've been here since August of 2019, and I love it.
And I am also an au pair. I have been here since March of 2020. You have been in Paris the whole time except for 1 month in the south.
Yeah.
And I was in the south for 6 months, and I've been in Paris the rest of the time. And we have experienced 2 lockdowns, so yeah, lockdowns definitely impact your dating life, but we've still been here long enough to have some good experiences. So how do you date in Paris? Like, what's your strategy?
What's my strategy? Okay, so my strategy's kind of changed depending on like what I wanted to get out of the dating experience. So when I first started dating, like about a year ago, like first started dating in Paris was about a year ago when I got back for winter break. And I was like, all right, like I have friends now, let's try it out. I had the app Hinge, which is really popular in the US. I downloaded it when I lived in Seattle, but because Hinge is, I'm pretty sure it's an American app.
Yeah.
So most of the people who are on Hinge in Paris are English speakers, whether they're like American, British, Australian, or just like French people who've lived abroad. Most of the profiles are English, which was really good for me like last year when I started dating here, because I was like, I don't really want to date somebody and only speak French. Like, I think when you're building a relationship, it's important to be able to communicate fully. So yeah, I met a few people through that. Nothing really got serious. Went on a few dates and then confinement happened. But it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
And then I au paired briefly over the summer in the south, spoke a lot more French, became more confident in my French skills. And then when I came back to Paris in the fall, I decided to get on Bumble, which is very popular in Paris. And so I got on that because I was like, I'm gonna date in French this time, which has been an interesting experience. But I've gone on a few dates with guys, spoken only French, and the dates may or may not have gone well, but my French speaking improved, so it's an added perk.
Oh, hello.
You're
Hello,
so
cute. Yeah, for me, I landed a week before our first confinement, so yeah, I spent a long time just getting settled in France, not dating. But for me, the primary method that I used was Bumble, and a big part of that is because when I was done with my first family and I was interviewing for my current family, I asked their current au pair how she had a French boyfriend that she had lived with through confinement, so like found a lot of success here clearly. I asked her how she'd made friends and how she'd met her boyfriend, and she said she had met all of her best friends on Bumble BFF and she had met her boyfriend on Bumble. And so I was like, well, clearly Bumble like is the place to go.
Good recommendation.
So I started using Bumble once confinement was over. I started using Bumble. Like, I spent like 2 months basically traveling around France, and you know, I met a lot of cool people in there. Obviously I wasn't staying like in those places long term, so I was just using it to meet different people. And then when I got to Paris, like the second day I was here, I matched with my now boyfriend, who I've been dating for like 5 months now. We went on our first date. The third day I was in Paris, so it was very fast. And so I don't have a lot of like I don't know, dating around experience in France, but I would say that was a success. And I think that Paris is like a good place for finding a relationship compared to a lot of big cities. Like, I know people complain about like New York City, like there's this like dating culture where like everyone's so like, I don't know, busy working, and like it's really, really hard to find a relationship, whereas I feel like in France it's very different. And I think part of that's because of the dating culture, which we'll get into later. But okay, so the next part I wanted to address is like how do you think being an American has affected your experience?
I mean, English, obviously, like, I've dated people who speak English who maybe are interested in me because they want to speak English. It's certainly been a topic of conversation. Whether I've dated people in French or in English, like, we've talked about America. I went out with one guy who had lived in Seattle, so we talked a lot about that. I went out with one guy, like, in the month leading up to the election, and we talked a lot about that. And, like, I feel like as an American abroad, like, it's pretty inevitable that, like, no matter who you date, like, they're gonna want to know about where you're from, and they're gonna want to know your opinion on the state of America because, yeah, it makes world news.
Yeah. I feel like there's a little bit of not an advantage, but a little bit of an appeal. Like, it's like you have an exotic appeal, and you might not think, like, oh, coming to Europe from America, I'm like that you're gonna have an exotic appeal, but, like, people do see you as, like, exotic because you come from a different place that speaks a different language. Like, the culture is very different. And then there are definitely cultural differences that I think are worth being aware of in like relationships, and then also like in general, but like especially like in relationships, I think that, sorry, there's a lot of noise going on. I think that if you go on YouTube, because I know that I did, like, when I was moving to Paris, and I've actually always watched like videos on cultural differences between different countries, because like that's something I'm super interested in. Like, that's a big part of why I'm here, is because I love learning about culture, like all different types of cultures. I think that it's very consistent if you watch any experience of like American girls who come to France to date, that they say that French boys like will think that you're in a relationship sooner than you think as an American you're in a relationship. I had an au pair friend that I met while I was traveling. I think you know her, Karina.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And she was like, the way she described it was, she was like, oh, every like French boy either wants you to be like their future wife, or they just want to hook up. And I don't think that's exactly true, but the cultural difference is what gives that impression, because it's not like they aren't putting the pressure of like, oh, I want to be with you forever, but they do take the relationship more seriously from the get-go, or they're just not interested in a relationship at all. Like, what I've found with dating is that like guys will be very upfront. Like, a lot of times French guys, like if you're on an app, like they'll be like, what are you looking for, like very early on. And if they're just looking to hook up, like they'll make that very known. And like if they're looking for a relationship, like they'll also make that known. And I feel like there's not so much gray area in France. There's not so much like dating multiple people. That's pretty counterculture here. And so I think that's just something to be aware of, because obviously if you come from a culture like ours where you sit down and you have a define the relationship conversation, if you come from a culture like that, you're assuming that you're not in an exclusive relationship, but then the other person is coming from a culture where they are assuming that you're in a exclusive relationship because you've been going on dates and like you've been kissing and like you've like, once you reach that point, a lot of times there's that assumed exclusivity, and it's shifting a little bit in France because of like, I think the influence of American culture, honestly, but it's not like, it's definitely not shifted completely. Do you know what I mean? And so like, obviously for obvious reasons that can cause a lot of heartbreak if you don't talk about it like straight up front, but even still, even when you talk about it, they'll still be there. I found consistency in that kind of difference where there's not a lot of gray area, and like French guys are like, if they're treating you like their girlfriend, then you're probably their girlfriend in their mind. In your mind, I don't know, but
That's true.
Okay, so we went over cultural differences. You talked a little bit about the language barrier. I do not date in French. I'm just like, first of all, lazy. Second of all, my French isn't that good. Sometimes I try to practice a little bit of French with my boyfriend, who's very patient, but like I can't have good conversation in French. You know, like I can't really make a connection with someone in French. Like you can't make a connection with someone being like, how was your day? I see a movie today. Like,
That's true.
it takes a language level, which I think people don't realize, because a lot of people say that one of the best ways to learn a language is having a significant other, and I do think it's a good way to learn a language, but I don't think it's a good way if you're at a certain level of the language. Like, even if you're at B1 still, I think it's very hard to develop a good relationship, because good relationships take communication. And if you can't really connect with someone because you're limited in what you can talk about, like, that's very difficult. So that's why my opening message on Bumble was always like, bonjour, parles-tu anglais? Like, do you speak English? Like, because that for me is like the number one deal breaker. If you don't speak any English, I don't have enough to offer with French that I can sustain like a conversation or a relationship.
No, that's fair. And I do think like my French skills are higher, but it is still hard, like, dating in French. And I do like have been thinking about maybe just going back to only doing English, because like, even though I can have pretty good conversations, so even though like I have enough French that I can have like real conversations with people, like we've talked about politics, we've talked about, you know, all kinds of random stuff, it's still like is a higher level of stress than like when I'm speaking English with somebody. So like, in general, like when you go on a first date with somebody, like it's gonna be a little stressful in general, you're gonna be a little nervous, and then like if you're speaking another language, that's like a whole added thing. And I do think it's helped my French, but I don't know if it's helped my dating life. So I think that's something to consider. And I do think like it really depends on what you want. Like, I think dating somebody in another language is great if you just want to like date casually, like get to know someone, have a few conversations, maybe hook up, whatever. Like, then you don't, like, if you have enough of a high level of that language, like you don't need to like be able to like explain your feelings and all that, versus like if you're really trying to build a relationship, like I do think it would be hard if that person did not speak any English.
I think that that's something in general that people don't realize, like, especially my like American friends and family that are like, oh, you're in France, you're like immersed, like why aren't you fluent in French now, like why don't you just speak French with your host family, which is an option for me, but I haven't gone for it. And I think that like what people don't talk about is that if you're gonna go to a foreign country and you're gonna take that leap and really immerse yourself, you're gonna sacrifice being able to develop like relationships to the same depth as you could in your like in your mother tongue. And like when you're around people that do speak your mother tongue, like it really does come down to, and I think it's good either way, but I think that people don't understand that it's a very personal choice. It's like, would you rather be more isolated and like really push yourself on your language learning, or are you here to like really develop relationships with people and get to know people? Because I don't know, I think that that's like, it's something that a lot of people can't understand, why I'm not pushing more for full immersion. But like for me, I value like being comfortable and like not being stressed out and having relationships with my host family, actually knowing, you know, like my boyfriend's opinion on different like world events, and not just sitting there and spending hours like every day talking at a very basic level so that I can, you know, practice my French. And like also it's like when I do go spend time with my boyfriend, like that's my time to like relax. I want to enjoy my time, like I want to do fun things. And so like I wish that I could practice French a little bit more. And sometimes I really do get into these periods where like even for like a month, for 6 weeks, I'll be super into practicing French, but then I'll go through periods where I'm just not putting in any active practice, and I am still getting a little bit better from that passive listening. But it's like immersion isn't a silver bullet. Is that like the term? It's not like a magical,
it's not this magical like
like solution. And so I think that you know, the language barrier, you can, if you're in Paris, you can choose to only date people who speak English, and it's not going to be a problem. It's just going to be that your pool's a little bit smaller. But also what I will say is I think that there are a lot of people in that situation, and they're much more interested in meeting up with other English speakers, and like will take opportunities more seriously. Like, you know, I've met people whose French wasn't very good that were living in Paris, and they were a lot more eager to like get to know me and see if this relationship could work, because like there's a finite amount of people that do speak fluent English, and so I think that it just shifts the way that you approach the relationships. And yeah, it's valuable either way you want to approach it, in French or in English.
Yes.
Okay, the last thing is, do you have any dating stories that you want to share? You don't have to.
Do I have any good dating stories?
I don't know. But I will say, on the language barrier thing, there is, like you mentioned, like sometimes you'll meet up with someone who just wants to speak English. There was definitely one time where I went on a date and that guy was totally just there to practice his English, and it was like very apparent from the beginning, but it was fine because I was traveling. I was only in the city for like 3 days, so like I didn't mind. It was like the perfect situation, you know. We like grabbed a beer and like talked, and he was really eager to talk and like friendly and great to talk to, and he was like, oh my gosh, I was in like Grenoble, and it was a French guy, and he was like I never find people to practice my English with, because like Grenoble's a smaller town. It's not like Paris or Lyon or like, you know, Marseille. Yeah. Like what's the other big city? Yeah. And so there's less of that like English presence. So if you're going to a small town, I think that the situation's definitely gonna be different. But yeah, I mean, I think in general it's good to speak more French if you're going to a small town, or like if you don't, like it's good to want that more language immersion experience.
Yeah. Depends on where you're going to though. Like, so I was in a pretty small town over the summer, but I was on the Côte d'Azur, which has like tons of English tourists. Even during COVID.
And you were there during the summer.
Yeah, I was there during the summer, and like I didn't date while I was there, but like one of my really good friends there dated a lot, and I'm pretty sure she just dated guys in English, and they were like, so that's like also a pretty international area. Like if you're coming to France and you like want more English speakers.
Yeah, it really does depend, because like on the French Riviera, like there's gonna be a lot of people, especially during the summertime, like a lot of people traveling, passing through. Even in like popular tourist areas, like you're gonna be able to find people, and a lot of people in Europe do holiday for longer than Americans, so it's not like they're coming for a week necessarily and leaving. Like you were only there for a month, you could have easily met like
had like a little month.
Yeah, you could have met like a German guy who speaks English. Like Germans speak really good English, and they take long holidays.
True.
So yeah, but. It depends, but I think it's so fun to date in like a different culture, and I think it really like it opens up a new perspective about so many interruptions. But yeah, that is our little video about dating as an American in Paris. And I thought I brainstormed for both, but I didn't. So a different issue. We'll have to wing it. There are au pairs all over the world. So we're gonna talk about the issues, or not issues, but the experience you might have with that. This is gonna be a bitch to edit. I think that the microphone's pointing this way though, so you know what? Apologies for any background noises. Okay, I think you're good. We were talking about Hinge.
Okay, yeah.